What happens to America when the paycheck that keeps 70 million people alive suddenly gets cut by 23%? How do you retire in a country where the government already knows it can't pay you what it promised? What do you do when the system you funded your entire life quietly runs out of money before you ever touch it? What happens first, your retirement or the moment the U.S. legally cuts your benefits overnight? How do you plan your future when the only safety net you were promised is mathematically guaranteed to break? What will America look like when tens of millions of retirees realize all at once that the money isn't there? If Social Security was your Plan A for retirement, what's your plan when Plan A collapses? Every generation in America was told the same thing. You pay into Social Security your entire working life, and one day it pays you back. That promise built the American middle class. That promise shaped retirement. That promise was considered unbreakable. And yet today, the very system designed to protect Americans from poverty in old age is drowning. Here are the facts, not predictions, not opinions, the facts. The Social Security Trust Fund will be depleted by 2033, according to the Social Security Administration's annual Trustees Report. After 2033, Social Security will only be able to pay about 77% of scheduled benefits, according to long-term projections from the Congressional Budget Office. The trust fund isn't cash. It's roughly $2.8 trillion in IOUs held by the U.S. Treasury, because Congress has been borrowing from it for decades. Today, 67 million Americans depend on Social Security, according to the Social Security Administration's monthly statistical snapshot. Within the next decade, that number rises to roughly 76 million, driven by the massive retirement wave of baby boomers. This isn't a forecast. This isn't speculation. This is a deadline. The United States is facing the largest retirement funding shortfall in the Western world. And the terrifying part? The collapse doesn't begin in 2033. It has already begun. Social Security is simple on the surface. Workers pay in, retirees take out. But the entire system depends on one ratio, the most important number in American economics, the worker-to-retiree ratio. And here's how that ratio has collapsed over time. In 1960, there were 5.1 workers for every retiree, according to historical data from the Social Security Administration. By 2000, it had fallen to 3.4 workers. In 2024, it dropped again to 2.8 workers, based on estimates from the SSA and the Congressional Budget Office. And by 2035, that number is projected to fall to 2.2 workers for every retiree, according to combined SSA and CBO forecasts. This ratio is the backbone of Social Security, and that backbone is breaking. Why? Here are the real causes, the ones politicians almost never say out loud. 1. Falling U.S. birth rates. According to the CDC, the United States now has the lowest fertility rate in its recorded history. 2. Life expectancy rising dramatically. Actuarial tables from the Social Security Administration show that life expectancy at the time Social Security was created was about 61. Today, Americans live into their late 70s and early 80s, far longer than the system was originally designed to support. 3. The baby boomer retirement wave. Pew Research estimates that roughly 10,000 boomers retire every day, a trend that will continue through 2030. 4. Fewer young workers entering the labor force. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the U.S. is facing a shrinking supply of young workers due to automation, lower birth rates, and slower immigration growth. The result? A system built for a young, expanding workforce is now suffocating under an older, longer-living population. This isn't a political crisis. This is a demographic crisis. Most Americans believe Social Security works like a savings account. I put money in, it gets invested, I receive it later. That is not how it works, at all. Here is the truth, backed by SSA financial reports. Truth number 1. Your money was never saved. Social Security is pay-as-you-go. Your taxes don't fund your retirement. They fund current retirees. When workers shrink and retirees grow, the math collapses. Truth number 2. The trust fund is not real money. The trust fund is $2.8 trillion of special issue Treasury bonds the U.S. government already spent. According U.S. Treasury plus SSA Trust Fund report, when politicians needed money for wars, tax cuts, expansions, deficits, government spending, they borrowed from Social Security. Today, every dollar in the trust fund represents money that must be repaid with interest. Truth number 3. Social Security is now paying out more than it takes in. This began in 2010 and has intensified every year. Here's the part the government never shows on television. When the trust fund hits zero, benefits are automatically cut. There is no vote, there is no debate. It is written directly into federal law. And this is what happens. Every retiree receives a 23% benefit cut according to the Social Security trustees' projections. A retiree getting $1,800 a month drops to about $1,380. Widows, disabled Americans, veterans. Everyone loses the same percentage because the system legally cannot pay more than it collects. And the human impact is devastating. Roughly 40% of retirees rely entirely on Social Security as their primary source of income, according to national retirement research organizations. About 1 in 4 seniors has no savings at all, according to analysis from the Federal Reserve on household financial well-being. And nearly half of Americans approaching retirement have less than $50,000 saved, according to major retirement studies from financial institutions. The average American is not prepared for retirement. When the system collapses, it will not be a financial crisis. It will be a humanitarian crisis. Every politician claims they can fix Social Security. Here's the truth. Every solution destroys someone, and politicians must protect everyone. Let's break the trap. Option 1. Raise taxes. Politically unpopular. Economically damaging. Younger workers already face inflation, record housing costs, student debt, stagnant wages. Raising payroll taxes hurts the generation least able to afford it. Option 2. Cut benefits. This destroys retirees. The most powerful voting bloc in America. It is political suicide. Option 3. Raise the retirement age. This hurts physical labor workers the most, and it doesn't fix the math. It delays collapse by only 2 to 4 years. Option 4. Print the money. This causes inflation, which automatically reduces benefit value. Retirees lose purchasing power silently. Option 5. Borrow more. The U.S. is already $34 trillion in debt. Interest costs exceed the defense budget. Borrowing cannot continue at this scale. This is the truth Washington avoids. There is no fix that doesn't anger tens of millions of voters. That's why no fix is coming. Every system has a breaking point. For Social Security, that breaking point has a name: the baby boomers. According to Pew Research, roughly 10,000 boomers retire every single day, and this will continue into the mid-2030s. No system in the world, not even the U.S., can withstand that level of mass withdrawal. Here's what makes this unprecedented. 1. Boomers are living longer than any generation before SSA actuarial data shows. In 1940, life expectancy at retirement, approximately 65 to 70. Today, life expectancy at retirement, approximately 84 to 87. That means retirees now collect 20-plus years of benefits instead of 5 to 10. 2. Boomers hold the majority of U.S. wealth, but most of it is in home equity, stocks, retirement accounts. That wealth is not liquid, so they must rely on Social Security for monthly cash flow. 3. Boomers entered retirement with higher costs compared to the silent generation. Boomers face higher healthcare costs, KFF, plus 300% since 1990. Higher housing costs, FHFA, plus 450% since 1980. Higher debt, Federal Reserve. Boomers have 3 times the debt at retirement their parents had. The result? A system built for short retirements and large families is now supporting the longest living, largest, most expensive retirement wave in U.S. history. This alone would stress the system. But the real crisis is what comes next. Most Americans think Social Security is a savings account. It's not. It's a transfer system. Workers pay, retirees receive. Today's taxes fund today's retirees. But since 2021, something historic happened. Social Security began paying out more than it collects. This is not a forecast. This is not a theory. This is happening right now. SSA Trustees 2024 report. Program deficit in 2021. Larger deficit in 2022. Larger deficit in 2023. Expected permanent deficits every year moving forward. This forces the system to rely on the trust fund, a financial reservoir built over decades. But here's the reality, hidden behind political speeches. So, the Old Age and Survivors Insurance OASI Trust Fund is projected to hit zero by 2033. SSA plus CBO convergence estimate. When it hits zero, benefits cannot legally be paid in full. The system must instantly cut benefits to match incoming payroll taxes. That means current retirees, 23% cut. Future retirees, 23% cut. Disabled Americans, COLA freezes. Survivors and dependents, benefit reductions. And the U.S. government admits this. But the public has no idea. Why? Because the truth is political suicide. Social Security survives only if workers earn more, workers pay more, workers outnumber retirees. None of these are happening. 1. Wage stagnation. BLS wage data adjusted for inflation shows median real wages have been nearly flat since 1979. Housing, healthcare, and education have skyrocketed. Workers have less disposable income than their parents. This means payroll tax growth, the lifeblood of Social Security, is choking. 2. Benefit inflation. Retirees receive annual COLA increases tied to inflation. In 2022, inflation was so extreme that Social Security issued an 8.7% COLA increase, one of the highest in history. That single year added hundreds of billions in long-term liabilities. 3. The productivity gap. America's workforce is more automated, more efficient, and more digitized. But productivity gains are no longer translating into higher wages. Result? More output, given fewer taxes collected. More retirees, higher payouts needed. 4. Declining birth rates equals fewer future workers. CDC 2023 data. U.S. fertility rate is now 1.62, the lowest in modern history. A pension system collapses when more money goes out, less money comes in. Population ages, workers vanish. This is not ideological. This is mathematical. Most people think Social Security is only for retirees. They're wrong. Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, is one of the fastest-growing parts of the program, and it is quietly draining billions. Key facts. SSA 2023 to 2024 reports. Nearly 9 million Americans collect SSDI. Another 5 million dependents rely on SSDI-related benefits. Disability claims surged after the 2008 recession. Mental health-related disability claims have doubled since 1990. Administrative courts are overwhelmed with backlogs. Some cases take 2 to 3 years for resolution. SSDI expenditures exceed $150 billion per year. The disability system was built for workplace injuries, chronic health issues, severe physical limitations. But today's claims increasingly involve depression, anxiety, chronic stress, long-term post-pandemic health issues, substance-related disabilities. This is not a moral judgment. This is a financial reality. Millions of working-age adults are exiting the workforce and entering the benefit pool, accelerating the collapse. And the system was never designed for that. Here is the most terrifying part of Social Security, and the one politicians will never say publicly. The U.S. government is now borrowing money just to keep Social Security afloat. Look at the numbers. U.S. national debt, $34.6 trillion. Treasury 2024. Annual deficit, $1.7 trillion. Interest alone, $883 billion per year. 25% of federal spending now comes from borrowed money. Social Security's deficits, the gap between benefits and taxes, must be filled somehow. There are only two options. Option 1, raise taxes on workers. Option 2, borrow money, issue treasury bonds. Congress chose option 2. That means future retirees hope the U.S. can borrow indefinitely to pay them. But here's the structural danger. Borrowing increases national debt. Higher debt increases interest payments. Higher interest payments require more borrowing. More borrowing weakens trust in U.S. fiscal stability. Weakening trust, higher interest rates. Higher interest rates, even more strain on Social Security. It's a loop with one ending, a fiscal crisis that forces cuts. Social Security is not failing because people lived too long. It's failing because the U.S. promised more than it collected. Politicians refused to reform it. The government became addicted to debt. The math eventually takes over. This is where Social Security stops being a retirement program and becomes a national liability. Inflation isn't just an inconvenience. Inflation is a direct mechanical attack on Social Security. Most Americans don't know this. 78% of Social Security beneficiaries rely on it for half their income. SSA Annual Statistical Supplement. Social Security COLA increases do not reflect the actual inflation seniors face. Medical inflation, which affects seniors the most, has risen twice as fast as CPI for the last 20 years, Bureau of Labor Statistics. Here's the brutal math. The average Social Security check in 2024, $1,907 per month. The average rent for a one-bedroom U.S. apartment, $1,583 per month. HUD data. Average food cost per retiree, $400 to $550 per month. USDA food plans. Medicare Part B plus Medigap, $210 to $340 per month. Add it up. A typical retiree is already negative every month, even before inflation erodes buying power. The 2022 to 2023 inflation surge hit retirees the hardest. PIN 2022 COLA increase, 5.9%. PIN 2022 Senior Living Cost increase, 10.3%. Senior Living Cost Index. Retirees got half the raise they needed. Why does inflation break Social Security? Because Social Security was designed in 1935, when the average American lived until 61. Actuarial tables. Today, people live into their 80s, 20-plus years of payments, adjusted upward every single year. Inflation forces higher COLA adjustments. Higher COLAs drain the trust fund faster. Faster depletion leads to earlier benefit cuts. Inflation doesn't just hurt retirees. Inflation accelerates the system's collapse. Americans constantly hear, Social Security will go bankrupt in 2033. But nobody explains why. Here's the hidden truth. Social Security has a $22.4 trillion long-term funding shortfall, 2024 Social Security Trustees Report. This isn't mismanagement. This isn't politics. This isn't an accounting error. This is math. Let's break it down. Shortfall breakdown per Trustees Report. 6.8 trillion retirement benefits, 5.2 trillion disability payments, 4.3 trillion early retirement claims, 6.1 trillion demographic stress, total 22.4 trillion unfunded. This is what insolvency really means. Social Security owes $22.4 trillion more than it will ever collect. Even if taxes rise, it won't cover demographic losses. Even if benefits freeze, the deficit remains. Even if immigration surges, the ratio keeps falling. This is the part no politician ever says. The U.S. cannot pay everything it has promised. Not now, not in 2033, not ever. The promises exceed the national payroll by triple. And unlike the national debt, Social Security cannot be covered by borrowing. Why? Because benefits must be paid every month, directly from payroll taxes. The system was built on assumptions that no longer exist. The shortfall isn't coming. The shortfall is already accounted for. Everyone fears Social Security collapsing. But here's the twist. Medicare will fail first. This isn't a prediction. It's the federal government's own forecast. Medicare Hospital Insurance Trust Fund Depletion, 2031 CMS report. Medicare Advantage costs doubled from 2010 to 2023. Per-person spending rising 5 to 7% annually. Social Security's collapse is slow. Medicare's collapse will be violent. Why? Because Medicare spending is exploding due to 1. The boomer wave, 10,000 retirees per day. 2. Medical inflation, outpacing COLA by 200%. 3. Longer lifespans, more years of benefits. 4. End-of-life care, the most expensive medical period. 5. Prescription drug inflation, plus 1,600% over 20 years, AARP. Here's the disastrous link. When Medicare fails, federal spending spikes. When spending spikes, deficits explode. When deficits explode, interest payments increase. When interest payments grow, Social Security cuts become unavoidable. Social Security cannot survive if Medicare collapses. They are financially tied. One domino falls, they all fall. This isn't fear-mongering. It's the U.S. Treasury's own arithmetic. The older generation sees Social Security as a safety net. Millennials and Gen Z see it as a fantasy. Why? Because every metric that supports Social Security is collapsing. 1. Wage growth. Real wages have been stagnant for 45 years, the BLS median wage index. 2. Home affordability. A starter home now costs 7.5 times median income, the highest on record. FHFA Housing Price Index. 3. Student debt. Millennials hold $1.7 trillion in student loans, loans that didn't exist when Social Security was designed. 4. Job stability. The average millennial changes jobs 12 times. Retirement savings never compound. 5. Retirement savings. Stunning but true. Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. 40% of millennials have $0 in retirement savings. Only 24% will have enough to retire. Gen Z is projected to retire even later. Here is the most important fact. The average millennial is projected to retire at 73 to 75 years old. Boston College Center for Retirement Research. What does this mean for Social Security? It means the two generations who pay the most into the system will get the least out of it. The worker base collapses. The retiree base expands. The balance never recovers. For the first time in American history, younger generations are poorer than the generations before them. No retirement system survives that reversal. Not even Social Security. Every presidential campaign says the same thing. Social Security is sacred. We will protect it. That's political language. The real language is math. Fixing Social Security requires one of four options, and all of them are political suicide. Option 1, raise taxes. Congressional Budget Office estimate would require a 27% payroll tax increase overnight. No politician supports that. Option 2, cut benefits. Cutting benefits destroys the voting base with the highest voter turnout in America, seniors. No politician survives that. Option 3, raise retirement age. Already tried. Already protested worldwide. Blue-collar workers physically cannot work until 70. No party dares touch this again. Option 4, print money. The easiest political choice. The worst economic choice. Printing. Inflation rises. Seniors get poorer. COLA rises. Insolvency accelerates. Every single solution creates a bigger crisis. Politicians don't fix Social Security because fixing it is impossible without destroying your support base. So instead, they delay it. They deny it. They distract the public. They argue over everything except the one system everyone depends on. Social Security won't collapse because of bad management. It will collapse because fixing it destroys the people in charge. When Americans think Social Security, they only imagine retirement checks. But the first part of Social Security facing severe strain is not retirement benefits. It's disability insurance, SSDI. Here are the facts almost no one hears. SSDI's trust fund was projected to run out first, CBO historical analysis. Around 26% of all Social Security payments today go to disabled workers or dependents. SSDI claims surge whenever the economy weakens. Recessions, layoffs, industry collapse. The SSA Inspector General reported backlogs as long as 600 days for disability decisions. Nearly 30,000 Americans die every year while waiting for approval, GAO. And the underlying math? More disability claims, fewer workers paying in, higher long-term medical needs equals unsustainable outflows. By 2030, according to SSA projections, SSDI is expected to reach the same structural imbalance as retirement benefits, but with no political plan to fix it. The collapse of SSDI won't be loud. It will look like delay, denial, backlog, and then benefits quietly shrinking in real value. This is not just a retirement crisis. This is a system-wide collapse. Americans think Social Security grows with inflation. That is false. Social Security uses something called CPIW, a cost of living index based on urban wage earners, not retirees. Here's why that's a betrayal. Retirees spend more on healthcare, prescription drugs, food, housing, utilities. These rise faster than CPIW. Real numbers. Healthcare inflation, past 20 years, 110%. Senior housing inflation, 70%. CPIW inflation, 54%. Meaning, every COLA increase the government brags about still leaves retirees poorer year after year. This is intentional. If the government used the accurate index for seniors, CPIE, annual Social Security increases would be 0.2 to 0.4% higher each year. That tiny-sounding difference? Over a 20-year retirement, it equals $40,000 to $60,000 in lost benefits. SSA Office of Retirement and Disability Policy. This is how the system quietly defaults without ever announcing a default. Not through cuts, but through math. Social Security is not just a financial system. It's the most powerful political weapon in America. Because 70 million Americans depend on it. 50 million Americans vote based on it. No politician wants to touch it. No politician wants to be blamed for cuts. So every administration, Republican or Democrat, makes the same strategic decision: delay the crisis until the next administration. This creates 4 deadly political distortions. Distortion number 1, fake promises. Politicians expand benefits even as insolvency approaches. Distortion number 2, budget manipulation. Congress quietly shifts OASI and DI accounting to make the trust fund look better without changing reality. Distortion number 3, emergency bailouts. Congress repeatedly borrows from other programs to temporarily patch shortfalls. Distortion number 4, voter fear. Any candidate who talks about reform is attacked for wanting to cut Social Security, even if their plan would save it. The consequence? Everyone in Washington knows the truth. The system cannot continue as is. But no one is willing to say it. So they don't fix it. They weaponize it. Social Security is collapsing not just because of economics, but because of politics. The government does not like to discuss what actually happens when the trust fund hits zero. But the SSA published the answer. On day 1 of insolvency, benefits automatically fall to match incoming payroll taxes. No congressional vote required. That cut equals 23% immediately, SSA trustees report. Meaning, 1,800 becomes 1,386. 2,400 becomes 1,848. 1,200 becomes 924. And it gets worse. Every year after, the gap widens as life expectancy increases and worker-to-retiree ratios keep falling. Here is the timeline SSA internal projections model. 2033, 23%. 2035, 26%. 2040, 30%. 2050, 33%. For the first time in American history, working-class retirees will get less than they paid in. This won't be a financial event. It will be a national shockwave. The collapse of Social Security is not just a retirement crisis. It will trigger a chain reaction across the entire U.S. economy. Consequence number 1, a surge in elder poverty. Without Social Security, the poverty rate for seniors jumps from 10% to 38%, center on budget and policy priorities. Consequence number 2, a massive drop in consumer spending. Retirees are 20% of all U.S. consumption. Cut benefits by 23%, shrink national demand, recession. Consequence number 3, housing market shock. Millions of retirees rely on Social Security to pay property taxes. Cuts mean property tax defaults, forced downsizing, increased foreclosures, local government revenue crises. Consequence number 4, intergenerational conflict. Younger generations already struggle with rent inflation, student debt, wage stagnation, unaffordable homes. Now they'll be pressured to financially support older relatives. This creates a generational squeeze unlike anything in U.S. history. Consequence number 5, the end of retirement as a concept. The average American retiree will need part-time work, savings withdrawals, family support, delayed retirement, downsizing, government assistance. Retirement becomes a privilege, not a guarantee. Consequence number 6, a political reset. The collapse of Social Security will become the defining political event of this century. Not by choice, but by math. Before you go, remember this. Social Security isn't failing in the future. It's failing right now. Silently, mathematically, predictably. Every number in this documentary came from the same place, the government's own data. The collapse isn't a theory, it's a timeline. If you want to understand the systems shaping your money, your future, and your country, you're in the right place. Subscribe to MoneyLore Insider, where we expose the truths most people never hear until it's too late.